The scream of brakes cut through the cold grey morning, as Daniel almost dropped the tiny tiffin box he was holding. For a split second he thought the old bus would hit the girl again, her small frame, her trembling hands, her patched-up sweater hanging loosely from her shoulders, as she staggered to the sidewalk. It was the third morning in a row he had watched her nearly get shoved aside by the rush of the city, and something in him, the same instinct that woke him at 3 a.m., when his son cried, made him step forward without hesitation. It was in that moment, on a foggy street outside the bakery, where he worked part-time, before doing construction jobs, that his life took a turn he never expected. If you believe that kindness still matters, that second chances are real, and that the world becomes better when we choose to care, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Daniel didn't know her name then. All he saw was fear in the girl's eyes, the kind that didn't come from traffic or strangers, but from hunger, exhaustion, and years of feeling invisible. She was maybe 17, maybe younger, it was hard to tell under the dirt on her face. She clutched an empty school bag, the straps nearly worn through. He noticed she never went inside the school, she only stood by the gate, watching other kids who had parents dropping them off, friends laughing, teachers greeting students, as if each one mattered. Something about her loneliness hit Daniel in the same place where his grief over losing his wife still lived, raw and unfinished. Every morning he would drop off his 6-year-old son, Noah, at the primary school across the street. He always packed an extra sandwich for himself, but that morning, without thinking, he offered it to the girl. She froze, her eyes darting from his hand to his face, as if she expected him to snatch it back or shame her for needing it. When she finally accepted it, she whispered a soft thank you so fragile that it felt like it might break if he breathed too loudly. The next morning he brought her a real breakfast, eggs, toast, fruit. She ate in small bites, like someone who had learned to ration every crumb. She never asked for anything, never lingered, never explained. But every morning she was there. Waiting. Hoping. Grateful. Daniel couldn't have known she slept in an abandoned shed behind the school. He couldn't have known she washed her clothes in the public restroom sink at dawn. Or that she kept a single pair of shoes together with tape. He simply felt a responsibility, a human obligation, to show up for someone who had no one. Weeks passed, and the girl changed in small, quiet ways. Her shoulders stood a little straighter. Her eyes stopped darting around, as if expecting danger. She gained a bit of weight. Her clothes looked cleaner. And she started leaving small notes for him, a scribbled thank you, a flower she had drawn, a paper crane folded with trembling hands. She wasn't looking for pity, she was trying to give back with the little she had. Daniel found himself thinking about her even after long shifts. He wondered who she was, where her parents were, how she ended up alone. He wondered if her nights were safe, if she ate after school, if she was sick. And although he never asked, she began leaving clues, tiny hints, like someone softly knocking on a door, hoping but afraid to be noticed. One cold morning, when rain had mixed with sand on the streets and everything smelled of rust and wet cement, she didn't appear. Daniel waited. 10 minutes. 20. 30. His heart tightened with worry. Then he saw her from afar, limping, holding her arm awkwardly as if something was broken. She stopped when she saw him, her eyes filling with panic, and she shook her head, stepping back. But Daniel walked toward her slowly, gently, the way he approached frightened kids on the playground. He offered no questions, only took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. She shivered, not from the rain, but from something deeper, the fear of being seen, the fear of being helped. That afternoon, when he picked up Noah from school, the girl was still around, hiding behind a tree. She watched as Daniel carried his son on his shoulder, whispering jokes that made the boy giggle. And something in her face broke, softly, quietly, like someone longing for a life she couldn't imagine having. Just when Daniel considered contacting child services, everything changed. It was an ordinary morning. Daniel had just handed her a warm meal when 3 black SUVs rolled up to the school curb. Doors opened. Out stepped two lawyers in immaculate suits, followed by three massive bodyguards with earpieces. The girl froze, her face draining of color. Daniel instinctively pulled her behind him, thinking they were here to drag her somewhere she didn't want to go. But the lawyers approached respectfully, their voices steady as they addressed her by a name Daniel had never heard before, Miss Elena Hartwood. Hartwood. A billionaire's surname. Daniel felt the ground shift beneath him. The lawyers explained, in calm legal tones, that they had been searching for her for months. That her grandfather, the reclusive magnate Harold Hartwood, had been hospitalized and wanted to see her. That she was his only living descendant. That she had vanished after her mother died, slipping through the cracks of the system because no one knew she existed. Elena shook her head violently, refusing, clutching Daniel's jacket tighter, as if it was the only safe thing in the world. She whispered, without looking up, that she didn't trust them, that she didn't want money, that she didn't want anything except to stay invisible. She didn't believe they meant well, people in her life never had. Then one lawyer gently handed Daniel a file, photographs, documents, proof. He read enough to know it was real. When he looked at Elena, her eyes pleaded with him to understand her fear. So he knelt down, speaking softly, telling her she deserved safety, warmth, a future. That she had nothing to lose by hearing them out. That she wasn't alone this time. It was Daniel, not the lawyers, who convinced her to take the first step. That afternoon she was taken to a private hospital. She was treated, fed, cleaned, and given clothes that actually fit. Daniel brought Noah to visit her, and the girl, once afraid of every human voice, smiled when Noah handed her a toy car, so she wouldn't be lonely. She kept it by her bedside like a treasure. In the following weeks, her life transformed. She was moved to a safe, warm estate. Her grandfather, weak but lucid, cried when he saw her. He promised education, security, a future. Yet even with all the wealth around her, Elena insisted on visiting Daniel every few days, sometimes just to sit on the sidewalk with him and eat a simple sandwich like before. It wasn't the food she missed, it was the safety of being treated like a person instead of a project. She told him once, in a trembling voice, that he was the first human being who had ever helped her without wanting something in return. As her confidence grew, she blossomed into someone brighter and stronger than Daniel ever imagined. She enrolled in school properly. She started therapy. She began volunteering quietly at shelters, remembering the cold nights she survived alone. Months passed, and she remained deeply bonded to Daniel and Noah. She attended Noah's school play. She helped Daniel with his bills until he got back on his feet. She never flaunted her wealth, she simply used it to lift the people who once held her up without asking for anything. And then, on a warm evening filled with orange sunlight and quiet breezes, she sat beside Daniel outside the bakery and thanked him, really thanked him, for saving her life in a way no amount of money could ever repay. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like